Welcome to another useful episode of Fluent English Journey. I'm really glad you're here with me today. Take a moment to settle in, maybe grab a cup of tea or coffee, and let's spend some time together exploring an idea that can truly change the way you think about life, work, and even your relationships. Today, we're talking about emotional intelligence and why, in so many situations, it matters even more than IQ. Let me start with a simple but powerful question. Would you rather be the smartest person in the room or the one everyone trusts? Think about that for a moment. Being the smartest person sounds nice, doesn't it? People admire intelligence. They respect knowledge. We often grow up believing that having a high IQ or being clever is the key to success. But let's be honest, how many times have you seen someone brilliant who could solve complex problems but struggled to connect with others? Now, think about the opposite. Maybe you've met someone who wasn't technically the most intelligent, but they made you feel heard, respected, and valued. Which one left a stronger impact on you? This is where emotional intelligence comes in. Emotional intelligence, often called EQ, is about understanding your own emotions, managing them well, and recognizing the feelings of others. It's about empathy, patience, communication, and trust. IQ, on the other hand, measures logic, memory, and problem-solving ability. Of course, IQ is useful, but in real life, when you face challenges, setbacks, or team projects, EQ is often the skill that determines success. I remember a situation at work a few years ago. Our project was falling apart. The smartest person on the team, the one with the highest qualifications, had all the answers on paper. But instead of bringing people together, he criticized others and made them feel small. Team morale dropped and progress stalled. Then another colleague stepped in. He wasn't the smartest technically, but he was calm, kind, and supportive. He listened, encouraged, and helped everyone feel confident again. In the end, it was his emotional intelligence that saved the project, not pure IQ. So in this episode, we'll explore this idea in depth. Why does EQ often beat IQ in real life? How can it shape your career, your friendships, and even the way you feel about yourself? And most importantly, how can you start developing your own emotional intelligence, step by step? Stay with me, because this journey might just change the way you see yourself and the people around you. Emotional intelligence versus IQ. When we talk about emotional intelligence, the first step is to understand what it really means and how it differs from IQ. Most of us have heard about IQ before. IQ stands for Intelligence Quotient, and it's a way to measure intellectual ability. Simply put, IQ is about logic, problem-solving, memory, and analytical thinking. For example, someone with a high IQ might quickly solve math problems, understand complex theories, or learn new technical skills easily. We often associate IQ with school performance, exam results, and academic success. But life is not an exam. Life is messy, emotional, unpredictable, and full of people with different personalities. This is where EQ becomes crucial. EQ is the ability to understand your own emotions, manage them in a healthy way, and recognize and respond to the emotions of others. It's about empathy, patience, communication, and trust skills that help you navigate the real, messy world of human relationships. Communication, self-awareness, and the ability to build trust, these are the core of emotional intelligence. In other words, IQ measures how smart you are with your head, but EQ measures how smart you are with your heart. Let's make the difference very clear with a simple example. Imagine you're in a job interview. Your IQ can help you give good answers, show your knowledge, and explain why you're capable of doing the work. But what if you feel extremely nervous? What if you can't manage your stress and start to panic? That's where EQ comes in. EQ helps you stay calm, manage your emotions, and connect with the person across the table. Here's the key idea. IQ might get you the job, but EQ helps you keep it and even grow in it. Think about teamwork. A person with high IQ can provide the best technical solutions. But if they can't explain their ideas clearly, become frustrated when others disagree, or fail to respect different opinions, their intelligence loses its impact. On the other hand, someone with strong emotional intelligence can listen actively, stay patient, and encourage collaboration. They might not always have the smartest idea, but they create an environment where everyone feels comfortable sharing. And that kind of environment often produces the best results. Let's look at everyday situations. Imagine being stuck in traffic. A person with a high IQ might calculate the fastest route or know exactly how long it will take to arrive. But if they lose control of their emotions, get angry, and shout at other drivers, their intelligence doesn't help them much. Meanwhile, someone with high EQ may still feel stressed, but they can calm themselves, breathe, and accept the situation without letting it ruin their entire day. Many psychologists describe EQ as having four main parts. Self-awareness, knowing what you are feeling and why. Self-management, controlling your reactions, even under stress. Social awareness, understanding the emotions of people around you. Relationship management, using that awareness to build trust, resolve conflicts, and maintain strong connections. Together, these skills make up emotional intelligence and influence almost every part of daily life. To make it personal, think about your own experiences. Have you ever said something in anger and later regretted it? That was a moment when EQ was low. Or have you truly listened to someone and seen them feel relieved and grateful afterward? That was EQ in action. Notice that none of these examples are about solving math problems or remembering facts. They're about managing emotions and connecting with people. So, while IQ is important, especially in study or work, EQ is the skill that makes life smoother, relationships stronger, and success more sustainable. Without emotional intelligence, pure intelligence often feels cold or incomplete. But when IQ and EQ work together, that's when people become truly effective, both professionally and personally. Why EQ matters in daily life. Now that we understand the difference between IQ and EQ, let's go deeper into why emotional intelligence really matters in everyday life. We often think of success as something connected to school, work, or money. But when you step back and look at daily experiences, you notice that so much of your happiness and progress depends on emotions, your own, and those of the people around you. This is why EQ has a strong influence on careers, friendships, and family life. Let's start with stress. Stress is something we all experience, whether it's deadlines at work, exams at school, or problems at home. IQ doesn't really help here. You might be the smartest person in the room, but if you lose control under stress, your intelligence doesn't protect you. EQ, on the other hand, teaches you to recognize your feelings, pause before reacting, and manage your emotions in a healthy way. For example, instead of shouting when something goes wrong, a person with high EQ might take a short break, breathe deeply, and come back with a calmer mindset. This ability to manage stress not only makes life more peaceful, but also helps you make better decisions in difficult moments. Next, think about communication, especially with colleagues, classmates, or friends. In professional life, good communication can open doors, while poor communication can close them. If you only focus on IQ, you might explain things with perfect logic. But if your tone is harsh or impatient, people may stop listening. Emotional intelligence helps you choose your words carefully. It teaches you to notice how others are reacting and adjust your message so that people not only understand you, but also feel respected. A colleague who feels valued will always want to work with you again. In this way, EQ directly shapes your career. Conflicts are another area where EQ shows its power. Every human relationship, whether with coworkers, friends, or family, has disagreements. If you rely only on logic and IQ, you might try to win the argument by proving you are right. But winning an argument is not the same as solving a conflict. EQ helps you step into the other person's shoes. You ask yourself, why are they upset? What are they really trying to say? When you approach a conflict with empathy instead of ego, you are more likely to find a solution that makes both sides feel heard. This is how EQ strengthens friendships, keeps family bonds strong, and builds trust at work. To see this in action, imagine a family dinner where two relatives start to argue. One person insists they are right, raising their voice and pointing out every mistake the other has made. This is a high IQ approach, using logic and facts to win. But what happens? The other person feels attacked, the atmosphere becomes tense, and everyone else at the table feels uncomfortable. Now imagine someone else steps in calmly, listens to both sides, and says something like, I understand you're upset, and I see why this matters to you. Let's try to find a way to move forward. That is emotional intelligence in action. Which person do you think helps the situation more? In friendships, EQ shows up in small but powerful ways. It's the friend who notices when you're quiet and asks if you're okay. It's the person who listens without interrupting when you need to talk. Knowledge and intelligence are not what make these moments meaningful. It's patience, empathy, and emotional awareness, qualities that build lasting connections. Here's a question to reflect on. Think about a time when you had to calm someone down. What mattered more in that moment, your knowledge or your patience? Most likely, it wasn't a clever fact or an intelligent solution that helped. It was your tone of voice, your body language, and your ability to listen. That is the power of EQ in everyday life. When you put all of this together, it becomes clear why emotional intelligence matters so much. It influences how you deal with stress, how you communicate, how you resolve conflicts, and how you build meaningful relationships. In the long run, these skills often matter more than pure intelligence. After all, people rarely remember you for the facts you shared, but they almost always remember how you made them feel. EQ, the real superpower in the workplace. When we move from personal life into the workplace, the importance of emotional intelligence becomes even clearer. Today, jobs are rarely done alone. Even if your role seems individual, you're almost always connected to a team, a manager, or clients. This means your ability to work with people is just as important as your technical knowledge. In many cases, it is even more important. That's why emotional intelligence is often described as a superpower in professional life. Let's start with teamwork. A team is made up of different people with different personalities, strengths, and weaknesses. Of course, technical knowledge is necessary. Projects cannot move forward without it. But knowledge alone does not guarantee success. Imagine a team where everyone is smart, but nobody listens to each other. People talk over one another. Ideas clash, egos rise, and in the end, progress slows or even comes to a halt. Now compare that with a team where people respect each other, give space for every voice, and adapt when conflicts arise. Even if they are not the most intelligent in terms of IQ, this group often achieves better results because emotional intelligence allows them to cooperate smoothly. Leadership is another area where EQ shines. Many people believe a leader is simply the smartest or most experienced person in the room. But leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about inspiring, guiding, and bringing out the best in others. A leader with high IQ but low EQ may make brilliant plans, but fail to motivate the team because they don't connect with the people behind the work. On the other hand, a leader with high EQ knows how to recognize emotions, encourage people when they doubt themselves, and calm them when stress rises. Such a leader doesn't just manage tasks, they manage people's energy and confidence, which often makes the biggest difference. Let me give you a real example from the workplace. A few years ago, I worked with two colleagues who were very different from each other. The first colleague was extremely talented. He had advanced technical skills, was fast, and always wanted to show he was the smartest in the room. But he was also arrogant. When someone made a mistake, he criticized them harshly. When people offered different ideas, he dismissed them immediately. Over time, the team began to avoid him, and even though he had the best IQ, he created tension. The office atmosphere became heavy whenever he was around. The second colleague was not as technically gifted. He sometimes needed more time to complete tasks and didn't always have the perfect solution right away. But he had empathy. He noticed when others were stressed and offered help. He listened carefully in meetings and made sure quieter team members had space to speak. When mistakes happened, he encouraged learning instead of judgment. Very quickly, people began to trust him and wanted to collaborate with him. And here's the interesting part. When important projects came up, managers often chose him to lead, even though he wasn't the smartest in the traditional sense. Why? Because his emotional intelligence made the whole team stronger. This shows us something important. In the workplace, success is not just about individual talent. It's about connection, adaptability, and trust. You may have the highest IQ, but if you cannot manage your emotions under pressure, listen to others, or handle conflict with respect, your intelligence loses power. Emotional intelligence gives you the ability to adapt when things don't go as planned, stay calm under pressure, and support others when setbacks occur. These are the qualities people remember and respect. Think about it. Who would you rather work with every day? The colleague who makes you feel small and nervous, or the one who makes you feel confident and supported? Most of us would choose the second. And this is the key takeaway. Success at work is less about being the smartest person in the room and more about being the person who listens, adapts, and connects. Emotional intelligence is the skill that helps you become that person. EQ in personal relationships. When we think about emotional intelligence, we often focus on professional life. But in truth, EQ plays an even deeper role in our personal relationships. Friends, partners, parents, children, these connections are built not on how clever we are, but on how well we understand emotions, both our own and those of others. Empathy, self-awareness, and active listening are the keys that make relationships strong, meaningful, and long-lasting. Let's start with empathy. Empathy is the ability to step into someone else's shoes, to imagine what they are feeling, and to respond with care. In a friendship, empathy shows up when you notice that your friend is upset, even when they try to hide it. It's in those small questions, "Are you okay?" or "Do you want to talk?" These moments create a sense of connection. In a marriage or partnership, empathy goes deeper. It's not just hearing the words, but paying attention to the emotions behind them. When someone says, "I'm fine," but their tone is tired or sad, empathy helps you realize they need support, not silence. Without empathy, relationships become shallow. With empathy, they become deep. Next, self-awareness. Self-awareness is about recognizing your own emotions and understanding how they affect the people around you. Think about an argument. If you are angry but unaware of it, you might raise your voice, say hurtful things, and regret it later. But if you are self-aware, you notice, "I am angry right now. Maybe I need to pause before I respond." That pause can prevent unnecessary damage to the relationship. Self-awareness also helps you understand your needs and communicate them clearly, instead of expecting others to guess. Being honest with yourself creates space for honesty in your relationships too. Finally, active listening. This is another powerful skill that grows from emotional intelligence. Too often, when someone is speaking, we are not truly listening. We are preparing our reply or distracted by our own thoughts. Active listening means giving your full attention, not just to words, but to the feelings behind them. It means keeping eye contact, nodding, and using your body language to show you are present. Think about the last time someone truly listened to you, without interrupting, checking their phone, or rushing you. How did it feel? Most people describe it as a gift. They feel respected, understood, and safe. This is how trust is built, one conversation at a time. To highlight the difference between IQ and EQ in personal relationships, let's look at two very different approaches. Imagine a person with high IQ who always wins arguments. They have all the facts, all the logic, and can always prove their point. In every discussion, they win at least in their own mind. But what happens to the people around them? After a while, friends and family may stop arguing, not because they agree, but because they are tired of feeling defeated. The high IQ person wins the argument, but loses the people. Now imagine someone with high EQ. This person may not have all the clever answers, but they listen carefully. They try to understand what the other person is feeling, even during disagreements. Instead of saying, "You're wrong and here's why," they might say, "I see your point and I understand why you feel that way." Let's think about how we can find common ground. This approach doesn't win in the traditional sense, but it builds trust, respect, and connection. And in relationships, trust is far more valuable than victory. If you think about your own life, you may notice examples of both types of people. Maybe you know someone brilliant but difficult to be around. They always need to prove themselves. Or maybe you have a friend who isn't academically the smartest, but they're always there for you. They listen and make you feel valued. Which person do you prefer to spend time with? The answer is usually clear. We choose emotional intelligence over pure intelligence almost every time. At the heart of all this is one truth. Relationships are not competitions. They're not about winning or losing. They're about connection, trust, and shared experiences. Emotional intelligence gives us the tools to nurture these connections, repair them when they are broken, and make them stronger with every conversation and every act of empathy. Challenges and growth in emotional intelligence. When we talk about emotional intelligence, it's easy to imagine that some people are just born with it, that they naturally know how to stay calm, listen, and manage their feelings. But the truth is, emotional intelligence is not fixed. It's not something you either have or don't have. It is a skill, and like any skill, it can grow with practice. Still, there are challenges that almost all of us face when trying to develop it. Recognizing these challenges is the first step toward overcoming them. One of the biggest barriers is perfectionism. Perfectionism is the belief that you always have to get everything right, that mistakes are unacceptable. People with perfectionist tendencies often push themselves too hard, criticize themselves constantly, and become frustrated when things don't go exactly as planned. This mindset makes it difficult to grow emotionally because emotional intelligence requires patience, flexibility, and the ability to learn from mistakes. If you are always chasing perfection, you might ignore your emotions or judge them too harshly. For example, you might think, "I shouldn't feel angry," instead of asking, "Why am I angry, and what can I do with this feeling?" Recognizing that emotions are not good or bad, but signals to understand, is a key part of EQ. Another barrier is self-doubt. Self-doubt means constantly questioning your worth, abilities, or decisions. When you doubt yourself too much, you may avoid speaking up, even when you have something valuable to share. You may fear rejection so much that you stop yourself from forming deeper connections. This lack of confidence can limit your emotional intelligence because EQ often requires courage, the courage to express your feelings, to be vulnerable, and to trust others. Building EQ means slowly learning to believe in your own value and to see mistakes not as failures, but as opportunities to improve. A third challenge is the habit of reacting instead of responding. We all know this situation. Someone says something that upsets us, and without thinking, we snap back with angry words. Later, we regret it and wish we had handled it differently. That is reacting, letting emotions control our actions in the moment. Responding, on the other hand, is when you take a short pause, breathe, and choose your words with care. Those few seconds create space between emotion and action. People with high EQ are not people who never get angry. They are people who know how to pause and respond in a way that helps rather than hurts the situation. The good news is that emotional intelligence can grow. You are not stuck with the level of EQ you have right now. There are simple but powerful practices that can help you develop it step by step. One effective strategy is journaling. Writing down your thoughts and feelings at the end of the day helps you notice patterns in your emotions. For example, you might discover that you often feel frustrated after certain conversations, or that you feel anxious when facing specific tasks. By writing and reflecting, you begin to understand your emotions better, which increases your self-awareness. Another powerful practice is mindfulness. Mindfulness means paying attention to the present moment without judgment. It can be as simple as focusing on your breath for a few minutes each day, or noticing how your body feels when you are stressed. Mindfulness helps you slow down, stay calm, and avoid being controlled by automatic reactions. Over time, it gives you more control over how you respond to challenges. Asking for feedback is another way to grow. Sometimes we cannot see ourselves clearly, but others can. By asking a trusted friend, family member, or colleague questions like, "How do I come across in conversations? Do I listen well? Do I interrupt?" You gain valuable insight into your behavior. At first, feedback can feel uncomfortable, but it is one of the fastest ways to learn. It shows you where you need to grow and reminds you that EQ is a journey, not a destination. So, while perfectionism, self-doubt, and quick reactions can hold us back, practices like journaling, mindfulness, and feedback can help us move forward. Emotional intelligence is not about being perfect. It's about being aware, patient, and willing to learn. Every small step you take, every pause before reacting, every moment of honest reflection builds your EQ and strengthens your relationships with yourself and with others. Why emotional intelligence beats IQ in real life. When we think about success in life, many of us imagine intelligence as the most important factor. We picture the student with the highest test scores, the employee who solves problems the fastest, or the person who always knows the right answer. Yes, intelligence, what we often call IQ or intelligence quotient, is valuable. It measures logic, reasoning, and problem-solving skills. But here's the surprising truth. In real life, IQ alone does not guarantee success or happiness. What often matters even more is emotional intelligence, or EQ. Why is that? Real life is not a math exam. It's not a list of questions where the smartest person gets the highest score. Real life is full of people, emotions, challenges, and conflicts. You can be the most intelligent person in the room, but if you cannot manage your emotions, connect with others, or stay calm under stress, your intelligence loses its power. That's where EQ becomes more important than IQ. Think about your own daily life. Imagine you're at work and your boss criticizes your project. A high IQ might help you understand the technical mistakes and fix them quickly. But a high EQ helps you manage the emotions of that moment, the stress, the embarrassment, maybe even the frustration. Instead of reacting angrily or shutting down, someone with strong emotional intelligence can stay calm, listen, and turn criticism into growth. Which person do you think succeeds more in the long run? The one who reacts emotionally, or the one who responds with patience and maturity? Or think about friendships and family. You could be the smartest person in your group, full of knowledge and ideas. But if you constantly interrupt, always try to win arguments, or fail to notice when someone is upset, your relationships will suffer. Emotional intelligence helps you notice when a friend is sad, even if they say, "I'm fine." It helps you stay kind and understanding, making people feel safe and respected around you. In the end, most people don't remember you for your IQ score. They remember how you made them feel. This difference also shows up in leadership. A boss with a high IQ but low EQ may create a cold, stressful workplace where employees feel unappreciated. A boss with high EQ, on the other hand, knows how to listen, motivate, and handle conflict without destroying trust. Many studies show that leaders with high emotional intelligence are more successful, not because they have all the answers, but because they create an environment of respect and understanding. Here's a simple way to see it. IQ might open the first door. It might get you the job or help you pass the exam. But EQ is what keeps you inside that room, helps you grow, and helps you move to the next level. IQ can give you knowledge, but EQ gives you wisdom and how to use that knowledge with people. And since life is made of relationships at work, at home, and in society, emotional intelligence often beats IQ in real situations. So, what does this mean for you? If you've ever doubted yourself because you're not the smartest or didn't get the top grades, you don't need to feel limited. Your emotional intelligence, your ability to listen, manage stress, show empathy, and adapt when things change, can take you further than you imagine. The good news is that EQ is not fixed. Unlike IQ, which is harder to change, emotional intelligence can grow with practice. Every time you pause before reacting, listen deeply, or reflect on your own emotions, you are training your EQ. Here's something powerful to remember. As you practice emotional intelligence, you are also improving your English. Why? Because both skills require awareness, patience, and practice. Listening carefully, expressing yourself clearly, and managing conversations are part of both EQ and language learning. That means every time you train your emotional intelligence, you're also training your communication in English, two skills that will truly help you in real life. So the next time you wonder whether IQ or EQ matters more, remember this: knowledge is important, but without emotional intelligence, it's like having a car without fuel. It may look impressive, but it won't take you far. EQ is the fuel that moves you forward, connects you to people, and turns intelligence into real success. Cultural references and real-life stories. When we talk about emotional intelligence, it can sometimes sound abstract, like something from a psychology book. But in truth, EQ has shaped history, leadership, and even the stories we love in movies and books. In many moments, EQ has been more important than raw intelligence, and cultural examples show us why. Think of some of the most respected leaders in history. Take Mahatma Gandhi, for example. He was not known for military strength or wealth. Instead, he guided millions of people with patience, empathy, and calm communication. His emotional intelligence gave him the power to understand people's struggles and connect deeply with their hopes. He didn't simply rely on knowledge of politics or law. He relied on the ability to feel what others felt, stay calm under pressure, and inspire through compassion. Gandhi's leadership reminds us that intelligence alone is not enough to move people. You need emotional intelligence to truly connect. Another example comes from the world of sports. Great coaches often succeed not because they know every technical detail of the game, but because they know how to motivate players. They understand when to push hard and when to show empathy. Imagine a coach who shouts every time a player makes a mistake. That might create fear, but not growth. Now imagine a coach who notices when a player is struggling and takes time to encourage them, reminding them of their potential. That coach fosters confidence, trust, and long-term improvement, the hallmarks of emotional intelligence in action. That small act of emotional intelligence often creates stronger, more confident players who perform better. Many athletes say that what they remember most about their coaches is not the drills, but the emotional support and belief shown in difficult moments. Even in films, we see the same pattern. Think about characters who win the audience's hearts. It is rarely the genius who solves everything alone without caring for others. Instead, it is the character who listens, shows kindness, and learns to understand people. In many stories, the turning point comes when a character realizes that caring for others is more powerful than showing off intelligence. This reflects our own lives. We admire people who can balance intelligence with humanity. But emotional intelligence is not only for leaders or movie heroes. It also shapes small, everyday moments in our personal lives. Let me share one from my own experience. There was a time when I was working on a group project. We were under pressure and everyone was stressed. At one point, two people in the group had a disagreement. Their voices grew louder, and both sides were trying to prove they were right. My first instinct was to jump in with logic and show who was correct. But something told me to wait. Instead of focusing on the argument itself, I decided to focus on their emotions. I simply said, "I can see both of you are frustrated. Let's take a short break and come back." At first, they looked surprised, but after a short pause, the mood calmed down. When we returned, both of them were more open to listening. In the end, the project went smoothly, not because I had the smartest solution, but because I used patience and empathy to guide the situation. That moment taught me something powerful. Raw intelligence can give you answers, but emotional intelligence gives you results. If I had used only logic, maybe one person would have won the argument, but the team spirit would have been broken. By showing empathy and patience, the whole group grew stronger and we reached our goal together. We all face similar situations in our own lives, maybe a family conflict, a misunderstanding with a friend, or a stressful moment at work. In those moments, emotional intelligence often matters more than knowing facts or being right. The ability to listen, pause, and consider other people's feelings can transform a problem into a solution. So whether we look at Gandhi's leadership, the encouragement of great coaches, the wisdom of film characters, or even our own small daily experiences, the lesson is clear. Emotional intelligence is often the hidden strength that makes the biggest difference. It may not shine as brightly as IQ on a test paper, but it quietly shapes relationships, success, and the way people remember us. And that is what makes it so powerful. As we come to the end of this episode, take a slow breath and think about everything we've explored together. We started with the idea that intelligence alone, the kind we measure with numbers and test scores, is not the whole picture. Real life is messy. Real life is full of emotions, relationships, and unexpected challenges. And in those moments, emotional intelligence often makes the difference between failure and success, between conflict and connection, between being heard and being ignored. Now, let's be honest. Nobody wakes up one day with perfect emotional intelligence. We all make mistakes. Maybe you've reacted too quickly and said something you regret. Maybe you've ignored someone's feelings because you were too focused on being right. Or maybe you've struggled with self-doubt, perfectionism, or impatience. Or the fear of being misunderstood. That's normal. We are all learning. What matters most is not avoiding mistakes, but growing from them. And growth in emotional intelligence, just like growth in English, is a journey, not a destination. So here's a gentle challenge for you this week. Notice your emotions before you react. When something annoys you, instead of immediately answering back, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what am I really feeling? Anger, stress, fear? And then take it one step further. What might the other person be feeling right now? This simple pause can change everything. It can transform an argument into a conversation or a misunderstanding into a chance to build trust. Here's another small experiment. When you're in a conversation, notice if you're really listening or just waiting for your turn to speak. Most of us, without realizing it, are guilty of the latter. We nod, we smile, but in our minds we're preparing our own answer. Emotional intelligence asks us to do something different. Listen with patience, give space, and show the other person that their words matter. Think about it. When was the last time someone truly listened to you without interrupting? How did it feel? Most likely, it felt comforting, supportive, and even healing. You can give that same feeling to others. Now, let's connect this with your English learning, because that's why you're here on Fluent English Journey. Practicing emotional intelligence is not only good for your relationships, it also helps you grow as a language learner. How? When you pause before reacting, you give yourself time to think of the right words in English. When you listen more carefully, you train your ears to catch new vocabulary, intonation, and expressions. And when you show empathy in conversation, people feel more comfortable speaking with you, giving you more opportunities to practice. In other words, building EQ and building fluency can go hand in hand. So here's my invitation for you. Practice both this week. Practice your English in real conversations, but also practice emotional intelligence at the same time. Try journaling about your feelings in English. Try active listening when a friend is speaking. Try expressing empathy using simple English phrases like, I understand how you feel, or that sounds really tough. These small acts will not only improve your communication, but also your connection with people. Before we finish, I want to leave you with one more reflection. Ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be remembered as? The smartest in the room, or the one who made others feel seen, heard, and valued? There's no right or wrong answer, but your response will guide the way you grow in both emotional intelligence and life. Thank you for spending this time with me today on Fluent English Journey. I truly hope this episode has given you something meaningful to think about and something practical to practice in your daily life. Remember, emotional intelligence is not about perfection. It's about awareness, small choices, and consistency. Step by step, you can become not only a better communicator in English, but also a stronger, kinder, and more connected human being. If this episode inspired you, I invite you to share it with someone you care about. Maybe they also need this reminder about emotional intelligence. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes where we grow our English and our lives together. Until next time, take care of your words, your emotions, and your growth. Keep coding your English and keep coding your life for the better.